Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And you won't believe this, but apparently the Grand Mufti has broken another promise. He's done a complete U-turn, this time on school hours, minimum hours that pupils in school will face. And of course this has had to happen because the great wise one stood on a stage and said he was freezing council tax without actually working out what that would mean. Because of course he can't, can he? He's a moron. But this freeze has led to unforeseen, by him anyway, unforeseen, results. Because he doesn't understand the law of unintended consequences. He doesn't understand about forward planning. He doesn't understand that things happen. Actions have consequences. It's beyond him. So he stood there and he made this promise, and now, as a result of it, it's come back to bite him on his overly enriched arse. And this time, it's the number of hours that children spend in school. So we'll have a look at this, see why yet another promise has been broken, why another failure is looming on the horizon for the SNP, or because they insisted upon having a moron leading them. Here you go. So U-turn McJobby backs down again, this time on minimum hours for pupils in school. Because things cost. The man doesn't realise this, that things cost. And when he's got these really boring speeches, oh, what can I do to excite it? And he does his light bulb and he says, I know, freeze this. He just didn't realise, because he can't possibly ever understand, that what he's saying isn't what he's saying. What he's saying is, we're going to cut this, break that, spend that. We're not going to be able to afford to do something else. Because you're committing money that you already don't have to do something that nobody wants for no political gain at all. And the irony is, the people who benefit the most from that action are the ones most able to have afforded the rise in the first place. It's the wealthy that benefited the most. This is what happens though, because idiots being allowed to make decisions always leads to stupid decisions. So his council tax freeze vow looks to have come back to haunt him after he ripped up yet another promise as he backed down on plans to set a minimum number of hours children must spend in school. What a shame. What a shame that he's got something else wrong. Honestly, the people of Scotland must look and go, fail, 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 fail. And the trouble is, the SNP will still vote for him, the SNP supporter, because the SNP supporter is pretty thick. You think they're thick. You think the SNP politicians are thick. Look at the voters. They keep voting for him. How stupid do you have to be? Anyway, Hamza Yousaf has performed yet another U-turn. This time over plans to set a minimum number of hours children spend in school. First Minuscule had vowed to set a legal limit that had to be met by councils after some local authorities tried to save cash in the face of SNP cuts by trimming the school week. Well, they've got to save money somehow. They haven't getting any. They can't put the council tax up, and the budget from central government, the amount that they're being given from central government, is going to be cut. The only area where spending is actually in real terms increasing is in independence. What do you expect? You've got thick kids, but at least they're thick kids in an independent Scotland, as millions of foreigners hove into view. The SNP way. Hey, keep voting for them, folks. But it seems the proposal has already been kicked into the long grass amidst a wider debate on the Nats council tax freeze, which has left Finance Secretary and idiot Shona Robertson with a huge headache ahead of next week's budget announcement. Well, of course she has. When you've got an IQ of 86, it's a very complicated thing to do. Life. It's hard when you're stupid, isn't it? It also comes against a wider debate on Scottish education after it emerged the country had fallen down the international league tables. Fallen down? Plummeted like a rock. Down, my God. It's on a par with some third world countries now. From one of the best in the world to just appallingly bad. Primary children in Scotland can typically expect 25 hours of learning a week. This rises to 27.5 hours for secondary pupils, but there is nothing set in law. So this is just like gentleman's agreement, really, isn't it? But 5 hours a day for young kids, I get that. That's probably about right. You split the day into two, a 3 in the morning, a 2 in the afternoon. Yeah, sounds about right. The Daily Record reports that Cosler has told the Scottish Government the proposal would have to be ditched to ease the burden of the council tax freeze. And in a leaked memo from the chief turd, who's become notorious for his U-turns, the man's like a whirling dervish. U-turns every 2 seconds. Surprised he's not. He's U-turns that much. I'm surprised he's not dizzy. Anyway, Cosler president, Shona Morrison, he said the context had shifted. This is what he said to her. Context had shifted. In other words, we haven't got the cash for it, love, because I've opened my big beak and said something stupid. I won't attempt to do his accent. Instead, the government was willing to look at how collective ambitions, what the hell are collective ambitions, on learning hours could pave the way to a formal agreement. Now, somebody tell me, what the hell are collective ambitions? Is it, this is what we'd like to happen and in an ideal world would happen, but we haven't got the cash for it to happen because we've got a moron in charge? Is that what it is? I'm presuming that's what it is. This means it would not be enforceable by law. So it's maybe if you can. Why don't they just shut the schools, save a load of money? It's ultimately what they want to do, isn't it? Hey, we can save millions by shutting all the schools. I think of all that extra money we can spend on trying to get independence, which people won't vote for because they're not stupid. Although they will be if they keep cutting all the schooling. That's the plan. Get people so stupid they'll vote for independence. Hey, I can see how it's working. He says we would also want to consider how we can work together to achieve more consistent provision of learning hours over time and an increase in hours in those local authorities currently providing less. And he means fewer. But what I would also say is simple. Pay them. Stop spending money on all the shit you're spending money on. Nobody wants independence. Well, a couple of idiots do, but anyone with half a brain doesn't want independence. Stop spending money on that, and Bob's your uncle. Look at that. You can employ teachers. You can get kids in school for, who knows, even 26 hours of learning a week. That's got to be good. Then Education Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville. I mean, there's a woman well past her sell-by date in terms of being in touch with reality. Anyway, she said in February that she would consult on a legal minimum number of hours for school learning. The consultation was launched in March and proposed 950 hours a year for primary and 1,045 for secondary. Blimey, there's been weeks I've done that in 2 months. When I was setting up my company years ago, now 10 years ago, I was doing 100-hour weeks. And it was hard work. I was literally doing 2 jobs. I was doing my day job and then I was working at night, sometimes till the wee small hours. I was certainly doing 100 hours a week. And at the same time, I ran for local government. Didn't get in. Not my fault. We're never going to win. It was a paper victory. Did quite well. I upped the vote. Anyway, Angela. Thanks. Interesting tangent, Dave. Anyway, Andrea, reading is hard. Andrea Bradley, General Secretary of the Teachers Union, EIS, was critical of the U-turn. I don't know why she's critical of the U-turn. He's done enough of them. I mean, every few minutes he's U-turning, isn't he? He needs to go on Strictly. He can do the waltz the amount of times he's turning across a floor. She said all young people must have guaranteed equitable access to quality learning experiences, including the amount of time spent in the classroom. The EIS would be extremely concerned by the dilution of this commitment. Quite right. Keep them in class, teach them. The longer you keep a child in school, the better. Not just for the child, but for society. It is a marvellous thing, keeping kids in school. It's when you don't. It's when you go, oh, well, we're going to let a little early out on a Friday and things like that. They go off and do things, but they're not learning. And especially in the formative years, when they're young and their brains are like sponges, learn. There's no limit to what they can learn when they're young. A Scottish Government spokesperson said, we're committed to protecting learning hours and have extended them where necessary to ensure there's a minimum number of learning hours delivered across the country. Sounds like BS because they're actually cutting the hours and there's no legal minimum because, the brain's trust there doesn't understand that opening his mouth without engaging his brain leads to stupid decisions. But he's learning it. Must be. Keeps doing it. You'd think he'd be learning by the experience. My dog can learn on 3 repeats. It's been 6 or 7, but come on. Even he must be starting to get it. Anyway, we'll round up and come up. One day, they'll have a leader of the SNP that isn't a complete moron or a psychopath. Probably not. Because I think it's almost compulsory to be a moron or a psychopath to become an MP or an MSP for the SNP. They really don't pick them, don't they? Thick, corrupt, perverted, PD, predatory, thick. I know I said thick twice, but there's just an awful lot of thick ones, aren't there? Low IQ. It's a general rule. Are you a bit dangerous? Join the SNP. You'll be good. Oh well, another promise broken. Hey ho, it's only the kids, isn't it? It's not as though it's important, is it? Their futures. Buy another one of them. You know, typical SNP. Don't care about the kids. Do care about independence, though. Even though nobody wants it. But, yeah, kids. You can always have more kids, can't you? Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Move on. Move on. Always another one to do. So, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.